So this is a garden bed installation I put in on May 1st and 2nd, trying to get some seeds in the ground before the rain. I'm recording this audio on May 3rd, which happens to be my birthday. So I just wanted to give an idea of my thought process and just what I'm doing here in this video. So as you can see, I'm opening bags of leaves along the fence. I'm spreading these leaves to kind of snuff out the grass or any other weeds that are already growing and to give my seeds a head start. This is essentially like sheet mulching, but I'm using leaves instead of paper product. And the leaves are free, and to me this feels a little bit more natural. So now I'm adding wood chips, and the purpose of the wood chips is to hold the leaves down, but also to give kind of a firm surface that I can put my soil and compost on top of. I refined my method a little bit as I went along spreading the wood chips. I didn't really want to spread them too thick, and so I started kind of using the pitchfork to spread them thinner. I also, the next day, actually went out and bought a wheelbarrow because I didn't like having to navigate my potato slips that were coming up. You can see in the video all the little green plants in the aisleways. Those are potatoes. After the wood chips were down, I then added some mushroom spawn of a variety common name called the garden giant. My hope was to inoculate the mulch and kind of break it down and provide nutrients for the plants as well as potentially a secondary yield in the mushrooms. After laying the mushroom spawn, I then started adding my composted horse manure. This is manure that I had been collecting one truckload at a time over several months from a local source. This compost is pretty well aged, and so hopefully it won't be too hot for my seeds and for my plants to grow. I try and pack the garden bed down as much as I can as I move along because the wood chips and the leaves are very fluffy. And here are some critters that I found in the compost. This composted horse manure is really good stuff, and it's what I grew the other two garden beds to the left that are just coming into full production right now. When I was collecting the horse manure, I tried to collect both aged and fresh manure. And in making this bed, I tried to kind of mix a little bit of fresh stuff in as I went along, just to kind of create pockets of activity. I didn't want to be totally uniform in creating this bed. Nature isn't uniform. Nature, it has pockets of life. And so I'm trying to sort of emulate that principle. So this is now the next day, and I went ahead and bought a wheelbarrow, and that made it a lot easier to navigate the row, and I was able to just carry wheelbarrowfuls of the compost and just dump it and spread it on site. So now that I have a nice thick bed of compost, I start planting seeds. As I plant, I again try not to be too uniform and try to just plant the seeds without thinking too much and just kind of spread them haphazardly. I'm definitely still a beginner when it comes to implementing all this, so I am always trying to look for the feedback that nature is giving me. And so in nature, spills do happen, and it'll be interesting to kind of get the feedback of, what happens when seeds are spilled in a certain space. A lot of plants drop seeds right at their feet. I am trying to plant the climbing seeds closer to the fence just to give them that access. So my brother gave me these velvet beans, and I grew them in Fayetteville last year, and they did really well, and so I'm hoping for a good crop this year. This is seed from some wild ground cherry that I collected in southeastern Oklahoma, and I planted in Fayetteville, and it grew to be a very large size, and so I kept the seeds from the largest ones that I harvested. I didn't plant too many ground cherry seeds, but because it does grow wild, my hope is that it'll compete with the other seeds that I'm planting pretty well. This tomato mix is just tomato seeds that I collected from store-bought tomatoes. So this pepper mix is also just seeds that I collected from peppers bought at the grocery store. There are some seeds in there from peppers that I have grown in the past, but there are both spicy and sweet peppers in this mix. And it's things like jalapenos and bell peppers, I think some habanero, and some other fancy spicy peppers in there as well. I also sprinkled a little bit of strawberry seed. I don't have very high hopes for this seed, but I figured I would try it anyways. I know strawberry can be a good one for kind of filling the gaps and kind of being the ground cover. I also spread some grape seed. This is another one I don't have very high hopes for, but it was just old seed that I wanted to get in the ground. I also planted some fennel and cumin seed that I got at a Mediterranean market. So I don't even know that this seed is viable, but it'll be an experiment and we'll see because it was pretty cheap for a lot of seed. So this garden bed is definitely going to have a lot of competition, but I'm actually really excited to get the feedback of what does best in this environment with these conditions. So I then put down another layer of composted horse manure. This will cover the seeds and help them germinate well. After putting down this layer and covering the seeds that I had already planted, I went ahead and planted some of the smaller seeds on top, just because the smaller seeds don't need to be covered quite as deep with soil. I really enjoy this method of planting seeds. I find it to be very simple and easy. It does really only work if you have quite a bit of compost to lay down over a sheet mulch layer. So after my final spreading of seeds, I went ahead and got some lighter compost that I had been storing under a tarp to keep it nice and dry, and I sprinkled that on top just to kind of camouflage the seed that was on top, as well as kind of cover the smaller seeds and give them a chance to germinate. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to go ahead and try and give a sort of time-lapse update of the progress of how this bed works. So stay tuned for that.